All right, good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing great. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, let me go up to our daily here. All right, looks like we got a decent move up to about, where did we stop here? About 65,540. Almost making that double top right there. Not quite. I, honestly, I did want to see a drop first before we went up there, but it's gonna do what it's going to do, right? So, um, if you did, if you guys took along, I hope that you made some decent profit this morning. It's still not necessarily time for it to run just yet, but we're kind of in a more of a bullish environment, so I'm not surprised that it did really. I wasn't going to play that mainly because we didn't get a discount for me to get in or to get in sync with. So I just kind of stayed out and was watching it. Your 12 hour, you're getting rejected off of 65, 186, so that's going to be a point of contention there. I don't know whether or not this is going to be the high of the week. It is possible. Just keep that in mind. It does. That being said, when I talk about the high of the week, it doesn't mean that we're going to just straight up free fall. It just means that, we could consolidate somewhere in here. Okay. That we've made our high of the week at 65, 540. So just keep an open mind with that. A lot of times when we do have bullish weeks, there's a decent chance that we make our highs on Wednesday or Thursday. So this is possible that this is our high for the week. Let's take a look at the 8 hour. So 8 hour not showing anything really different. 4 hour, we kind of had some sort of, it almost looked like a descending triangle, but then it broke out to be a bull flag. So that was interesting. But now you're getting a decent retracement down back into the, our previous range, right? So um, I am unless I see an obvious setup, I'm very cautious about getting into longs or shorts. If it's a long, I want to see, us get a decent discount at a good time, like meaning not in Asia or London session, but I want to see it happen in the morning. I don't want to see it happen like, in the evening or, late night, during the witching hours. I don't want to see any of that. Like, if we're going to get a discount and we're going to potentially be bullish, I have to play my time frame, and that's going to be more so during, the earlier morning hours, right? And seeing that drop and the 786 retracement and then, riding that pump up. Um, so the 1 hour looking like it's a complex, it could be a complex head and shoulders. You kind of had this, it did break out, but now it's breaking back in. I mean, you could, I guess, say that I honestly, it's some sort of wedge here that might be retesting. I don't know. But I don't like to play patterns for this reason. I'm not a fan of it. Um, it showed some strength, broke out, now it's breaking back down. So it could potentially be the high of the week. Like I said, I don't know 100%. I am going to get in sync once it gets down into here, starts filling some of my order blocks here, but until then, I can't, I'm not going to chase price, especially in this environment. Now, if we were in a bullish, more of an extremely bullish environment, we're not in the bear market, I might, allow for it to pump, do a small retracement, and then I would continue on with that move. But for right now, as usual, not financial advice, I'm not going to chase price during this time, okay? Um, this could still potentially be a Bart Simpson with higher highs here, that eventually will break down. I'm not seeing, again, it's really going to depend on what price action does within the next hour or so. If we can get back above here within this range between 65, 186 and 65, 705, I think that there would be a more of a decent chance of us to be able to continue our move up. Did we get rejected off of like any sort of MAs here? So we got above the 6 hour. That was good. Um, 8 hour we haven't touched yet. So yeah, I mean we could come up here, right, and touch that 8 hour 200 MA, but price might have to consolidate a little bit more. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens. Um, honestly, guys, like I would not tell you to go one way or the other this morning. I'm not, really willing to short this either because of the fact that we're above some of these bigger meso time frame MAs, right? So, for me, I'm going to be sitting out until I get my discount. That's basically kind of my play. I'm going to wait for my discount patiently, because I know it's going to come eventually, and then I'll get in sync with price. So that's what I'm seeing in the charts without looking at liquidity. Let's go ahead and move on to that right now. All right, so taking a look at liquidity on the 4 hour, you can see we almost got up to this red area, right, around 66,000 to start taking some of that out, but we didn't get quite there. It looks like we took out majority of this, especially if I aggregate this a little bit more. I don't think that we're going to come down here soon. I think that this is going to be saved, for a different time. Definitely, it's not a good thing that we're building up more liquidity down here, but like I've told you guys in the past, at some point Bitcoin's just going to start to rally up, and it won't visit anymore to the downside. So, we could potentially be getting to that point, but from a timing perspective, you know, we don't usually bottom out in the summer, so that kind of makes me a little bit wary. We could maybe start the process, but I don't personally think that the bottom is in just yet. I could be definitely proven wrong though, but that's just kind of my opinion. Okay. Um, let's take a look and see the 1 hour. I want to see what's happening here as far as why we're getting rejected off of this area. So, um, let me turn this off real quick. I want to see if where the 786 is at here. Yes, I mean, we're basically hitting it, I think. Yeah, pretty much hitting it dead on. So yeah, I mean, if this really is a 786, guys, this is gonna take you down pretty hard. You can look at Kiyotaka, which is our free order book on the right. You'll be able to see, we still have all of these orders down here, right? Yeah, down even to 63.4. This is where I'm interested in, honestly. Until we get to this point, or until these orders start going away, I'm gonna stay interested in this area, okay? There's not a lot of orders after that to, not even to 61.1 here. But this is my area of interest is in the 63, mid 63 to high 63 range. This is where I would get in sync with price for my discount if we were to get here. Now, we could potentially bounce into, basically around low 64 area. But for right now, this is, I'm still targeting this mid 63, high 63 area, between 63.9 and 63.4. It looks like 63.4 to 63.9. So this is where I'm looking for a discount retracement. Not that I'm going to get it, but I just personally, with my own trading style, I don't feel comfortable with chasing price up here. Okay, let's take a look at the 15-minute now. All right, so 15-minute, if I don't have any aggregation on and I just have 100x, it doesn't look like there's a lot. 50x does show more bridges to the upside, so there definitely is liquidity there, and obviously 25x really starts adding into it. We did take out the major though, according to the smaller time frames. I know on the 4 hour we haven't yet, but according to the smaller time frames, we took out the majority of the liquidity here, pretty much all of it. There's none left. So, um, that being said, we could possibly, like I said, have hit the high of the week. That's why I mentioned that. Um, I'm really curious to see within the next hour, hour and a half, what price does. It's going to be a very tell sign of, where we might be going. Now, ideally, what I would like is for us to tap this 15-minute 200 MA at 63.5 because that would take out some of this stuff, and to bounce off of it, right, to the back to the upside. So, if I'm going to get in sync with price today, that's what I'm going to be looking at. Maybe a bounce off of the 15-minute 200 MA now. I think I mentioned that yesterday, but it needed to come up more, it looks like. So let me go to the 5-minute. Yeah, so 5-minute, kind of showing the same thing. We could get, yeah, it still shows 63.4 as a retracement. So um, I'm going to probably take a decently sized long here if we can get down here, and it aligns with my timing. Not financial advice, but that's kind of what I'm seeing so far. Um, Yeah, it looks good to me. So yeah, 63.4, 60 to 63.9, somewhere in there. I'll be taking my long if we can get down into there. If not, price moves without me, and I stay patient and I wait. I wait for either, a blow off top, or I wait for it to retrace eventually. So I'm not going to be impatient with this price action. Just waiting for my setups that I look for. All right, guys, that is what I have for the liquidity map here. It did look like we did have our trend diff up higher, but now everything's at neutral, which is interesting. So everything was like the 4 hour was at a 3, the daily was at a 2, so everything was bullish looking, and then everything kind of reset. So that was very interesting. But anyways, that's what I have for right now. Let's take a quick look at the simple map and see what we're seeing for liquidity here. So yeah, you can see, I mean. I'll try to zoom in a little bit more here. But to the upside, there's really like no liquidity at all. And I don't believe there is any more Fed events for the week, if I remember correctly. Let me take a quick look here. Let's see, Thursday, you have unemployment claims. Let's see, core retail sales. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing for the rest of the week, so expect a lot of low volume for the rest of the week. Yeah, I mean, it does look like we can just kind of fall through here and then start taking out some of the 63 area, which would provide for a good, long opportunity. So I keep on saying it, 63,840 is interesting because that's kind of where you have a spike in liquidity. So that could possibly provide for an entry right there before we get down to the lower 63 range. Um, but again, you never know. There's a lot of 50x, a lot of 50x and 100x on the smaller time frames of the downside. So it does allude to the fact that, there's a decent chance that we could go there first prior to coming back up. And then your larger time frames, which would be like your 4 hour and your daily. Let me zoom in. So that tells you how little liquidity there is, guys, is when you have to zoom in, that means that there's not a lot of players in the market, and you're still dealing with under $1 million worth of liquidity orders at all these different points, right? So, um, honestly, it kind of shows the same thing. 63,840 would be my target if we were to go to the downside around there. Um, it does look like we're going to move down rather than up. There's just not really anything to the upside. Not a lot of people shorting right now. We could potentially get up here because it is low volume now, so it could get to 66K if price is destined to go there. But the probability right now tells me that we took out this big order and we had a nice snap down. So it tells me that to be careful and to potentially wait for that discount. Um, Again, you could long this, right? But just you got to know the risk. The risk is that you're getting closer and closer to the top of the week. You don't want to be longing the top. You want to wait for discounts, right? You want to be shorting the top, and again, that's another risk because if you were to short right now, we could also plow up to the 67 level too. So just keep in mind, your risks, guys. Like, and especially because we no longer have any, Fed events for the rest of the week. Um, it doesn't look like it's a very good idea to do either of those things for right now, unless we get a clear direction in one way or into the other. Otherwise, we're just in a period of consolidation within a range, right? This is more of what you would consider an accumulation kind of range here that we've been in for quite a few hours now. Um, even since it looks like even since Tuesday, so it's just kind of chopping people out here. But anyways, guys, that is what I have for you this morning. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. As always, if you guys want to use Trading Different and its tools to help you with your trades and looking at liquidity and figuring out trend, feel free to use my code Sean and you will get 10% off of your order. So it's tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean to get 10% off. All right, guys, have a wonderful day and I will talk to you later. Take care.